These were my first months. So it was really rough because we were getting no results.
Yeah.
People we were talking to were like, I don't know what you do. I don't think I need what you do. I don't understand what your product does. Like, it was just general confusion from everyone we would talk to. We'd have these sales calls and do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. And we had nothing. All we had was like a cool video, a little bit of data. And I was like, okay, we need something that can make us win. At least one thing. Because we're not going to be able to have feature parity with all the other tools.
What you would do if you were starting with LinkedIn tomorrow?
I think you probably have something that's good enough for a lot of people. It's not because it's not good enough for you that it's not good enough for a lot of people. And sometimes you also have to be able to sort of get past this seems super basic to me, but it's going to be helpful to like 2,000 plus people.
To what extent would you say these LinkedIn principles just apply to all of marketing?
People need to want to do it. If they don't, it sucks. Like really, really sucks.
Where did you see that you already started getting this reach and, the followers coming in?
We had a cheat sheet era like 6 months ago on LinkedIn. So I wouldn't say that LinkedIn principles apply to marketing. I would say marketing principles apply to LinkedIn.
Because so 2023 was the year of the carousel.
Yeah.
2025, was that the year of the video? All right, welcome to the latest episode of our podcast. And today we have as our guest, Maxim Poulsen.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be in Amsterdam to record with you guys here.
First time in Amsterdam?
Third time in Amsterdam.
Third time in Amsterdam.
Third time's a charm.
Okay, perfect. Nice.
That's going to be the best one.
This is going to be the best visit. Okay. Just a quick introduction. You're the head of growth at a company called Contrast, right? You guys are in like the webinar live streaming space, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
You're competing with some really big companies. We're going to talk about that.
A lot of very big companies.
In a moment. And you're also quite the thought leader in the marketing space, right? I know that you don't want to be that LinkedIn guy. You are way more than that. And we're going to be talking about that. But it is just a fact that a shit ton of people follow you. You create a lot of content.
I create a lot of content, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining the show.
My pleasure.
And we start with the same question we ask every guest, which is, what is your origin story? And by that, I mean, feel free to go back as far as you want. And how did you get here?
How did I get here? So let's go quite far back, then I'll go kind of quickly. So born in the US, so English is my mother tongue. So that always lent itself to, working in sort of an international context, especially living in France today. Always big on numbers and like games also. I played a lot of games growing up. And played a lot of World of Warcraft. I don't know if you guys know World of Warcraft.
We've been there.
I was a RuneScape guy.
Okay. And I made a lot of money playing World of Warcraft. And so I think that was my first introduction into like markets and buying and selling and margins and sort of getting interested just in general in the way that like a business functions, supply and demand and all that. Good at math, studied engineering, wanted to go into finance because I was like, it makes money. Did an internship in finance, bored out of my mind. I hated it. I hated the job. I hated the hierarchy. I hated that every time I wanted to do something, I had to ask 10 people for permission. I'm like, fuck no, I cannot do this. Like it's not me. Like I like getting stuff done and the hierarchy was too much for me. And my stepdad was CEO of a startup, and he's like, "Oh, you should go to Station F. Station F is like the place to be. A lot of young people, a lot of startups. I'm sure you're gonna love it." So I applied for I don't know if there's this like title in English, but like right hand to the CEO.
Yeah, chief of staff.
I think that's kind of what they call it. In French, we call it the right hand to the CEO. So it's basically
CEO's assistant.
CEO's assistant. Yeah, do whatever needs to be done. Which it was still like early days of growth in France. And a lot of people who were doing this kind of job were doing what a lot of people would today call growth. I'm talking like 5 years ago, where it was at least much less known in France, all this like terminology. Did a lot of ops, a lot of operations like CRM data, a big sales team, sort of managing, making sure we had all the right data in all the right places. Thought that was really interesting. Startup crashed, it happens. And then, took the job at Contrast, super early stage. We were doing basically no revenue, had like 3 clients, something like that. Now, 3 years later, we're going up against the big guys and winning a lot of deals against them. Seeing a lot of customers from a lot of big webinar providers. So built everything from scratch. And that's kind of how it landed here. And side quest, I guess, LinkedIn. When I started working at Contrast, I was like, I felt like I didn't have enough structure to everything I had learned in my previous job. So I was thinking, what if I just write about everything? Like whenever I do research about something, instead of just kind of ingesting it, what if I wrote it down somewhere and then like, might as well just publish it on LinkedIn. So I started at 100 days in a row, 200 days in a row, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 997, I think today, something like that.
Days in a row.
Nice.
Yes.
You haven't missed a single post.
I haven't missed a single post.
Not a single
Christmas Day. Sometimes I would like repost. I count that as a post.
Yeah. But like, people can't see this through the camera, but you're absolutely jacked. So you obviously have like discipline. Right? Like you obviously have that discipline. I guess you also work out every day?
I work out every day too.
There you go.
Yeah.
So do you do, what comes first, the LinkedIn or the workout?
The workout, yeah. Okay. So this is I guess a huge perk of working for a startup is like flexibility. This is kind of what I was mentioning earlier. Very horizontal hierarchy and a lot of flexibility. So I don't start work until I've gone to the gym. And if I don't wake up, I still go to the gym and then I go into work. And everyone knows that like that's the most important thing for me to start my day. I won't have a good day if I haven't been to the gym first. So it's just kind of my ritual. Get up, gym, work.
I think that's the flexibility aspect, but it's also I guess there's a security aspect because, we run our own company. We have all the flexibility in the world. We can decide not to work the next 3 weeks.
No.
We can't decide to not work the next 3 weeks. So
it's a fake impression of you can do whatever you want, but you're actually going to work way more hours than you would do in a normal company.
Yeah, you have the flexibility, but it's in a very tight space. Yeah. The reason I bring this up is I think when people see, this is my own assumption, and I'm assuming everyone's the same. When people see you on LinkedIn and you see you posting, the first thing they go like, this guy is a consultant with a solo business who's going to sell me his courses, his consultancy work, these kind of things. And then when you dig past the surface, it's not at all the case, right? Yeah. You're a head of growth at a company.
I do very little consultancy.
Yeah, and that's your main thing. How do you balance those two things? Because you've got like a personal brand, and I guess already it's unusual or it's cool to see somebody building a personal brand, not just to sell people shit. I think that's probably a core reason why you're so successful.
I think it's one of the main reasons. Yeah. I think my content will vary wildly depending on my mood, depending on what I think is interesting. And because I don't have this like underlying need to sell something, like whether or not I do any consultancy, any freelancing, write any courses, anything like that, I still make enough money to like live. I don't need to do anything on top of that.
Yeah. Which
I think puts me in quite a strong position of if I want to post 5 memes, like a meme a day all week, fine. Like it's my, like, I don't need the business coming in. I don't need this and that. So I do think that brings kind of like, not a freshness, but
it's authentic.
I'm not plugging stuff all the time. And I think that people have told me that they appreciate that. How do I then balance the two? My main priority is my work at Contrast. That is very time consuming, but also very flexible. So if I need to do like consulting during my Contrast hours, I'll, take an hour out of my schedule. But the two are also very, like intertwined. So my LinkedIn, what I call my LinkedIn hour is 1:30 to 2:30. And everyone knows not to book me between 1:30 and 2:30 because I'm commenting, posting, commenting.
Unless you haven't been to the gym yet.
Oh, I'll do it at the gym. That's a good question. No, but always 2 p.m. Like I think the latest I've posted in the past year was like 2:07 p.m., something like that. And I will lose my shit if I look at my phone and it's like 2:05 and I miss it. That will stress me out way too much, way more than it should.
You're really structured. You're really structured in that way.
Yeah. And, but they're very intertwined in the sense that 10% of Contrast's revenue, I mean, you can basically consider that when I joined, there was 0. And then wherever we're at now, 10% of the total revenue is directly sourced to my LinkedIn. Which is huge, seeing as we're like a 13-person team.
It's insane.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. And last time I looked,
push Contrast super hard on your LinkedIn.
Rarely.
Does the CEO ever go like, "Hey, come on, just throw in a little"?
Everyone thinks I'm the CEO.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's my company.
Yeah.
And they're like. And then I'm like, oh, maybe. I wish.
I need to have a talk internally.
But so 10% is directly attributed, as in like the attribution source in the CRM is Maxim LinkedIn. And last time I checked, we had 35 to 40% of deals where someone at the company follows me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Someone in the like decision
Making
group.
unit.
So you're not going to have like 3-4 people, a few users, decision maker, like the CMO, something like that.
That's awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And so they obviously, even if I take a full hour out of my day to do this, like it's an acquisition channel.
If you represent, like you bring 10% of the revenue for the company, so you've proven that this works.
Yes.
Did you made it part of your strategy within the company of pushing other team members to also do the same? Because you're like, okay, that can be, obviously it's not a short-term gain, but did you push them to say, okay, if I can do 10%, maybe you can do 10, 10, 10, and then overall it's going to be more interesting?
It's a good question. Yes. However, there are a few conditions for it to work. People need to want to do it. If they don't, it sucks. Like really, really sucks. So some people don't want to do it, and that's fine. And you can't make people do something they don't want to do. I don't want to write it for them. I don't have time to write it for them. And if I do, then we're just in this cycle of basically, I would rather spend more time writing my own posts than doing that.
Yeah.
Some people can't stomach the first few months where you get no views. Some people, it just, it's so negative for them that they can't make it past it. And some people just have this kind of fun creativity. One of the SDRs, Oren, who works with us, she started doing a few of them, and then some got really good traction. Now she's doing like a mix of memes and posts and carousels, and it's really starting to work. And she had like a few customers come in through that. And it's like, we've now shown that it's not only doable once, but it's also kind of repeatable.
Yeah.
On certain conditions. Like people need to want to do it, or you can see that it's forced.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be a strategy for companies to actively hire people who are super active on LinkedIn just as a byproduct? I mean, maybe not say hire people for like roles that you don't need, but hiring very influential people as evangelists or something, like some kind of B2B influencer marketing. I know some companies do this, but they tend to do it with like really big names who have 200,000 followers and 20 sponsorship deals. But do you see like this as a real channel that people can tap into?
So I wouldn't. I think that the best indicator, of course, for hiring would be competence, and there would obviously be, there's probably a high correlation between competence and relevant audience, because you have to have at least some kind of competence to be able to produce content that a relevant audience is going to be interested in. So there might be a bias towards those. I don't think companies would necessarily go and hire someone. I think if you do have a strong personal brand, you can definitely ask for more money. That's for sure. Because you can sell the exposition and you're going to be like, okay, just me being here. As you mentioned, even not pushing it at all, the fact that this year I'm going to do 7 million views, something like that. In my headline, people see contrast are like, oh, like maybe 100 times a year, a few million people that get exposed to it. And that in essence has value. I think the other version of this that is something that I'm trying to maybe move towards a little bit more is like long-term influencer partnerships.
Yeah.
So at first, obviously, people started reaching out,
which is what I meant. That like basically bring on people in like hiring them as an influencer.
Yeah.
But a substantial one for the company, right? I think it doesn't work if that person is promoting 30 different products.
Exactly.
And you have to be in the right niche, right? Because if
and you have to understand the products. You have to deeply understand the products. So when people started reaching out and influencer marketing wasn't really a thing on LinkedIn until like the wave of AI tools. That's when it really started. And then I started getting offered 1,000, 1,500 euros for one post. I'm like, and that was really hard for me. I didn't say no to everything. I said yes to a few, and after the fact, I felt really bad about it because I was like, I've never used this tool. I don't know what I'm promoting. And that was like, it was also a few years ago. So I was maybe it's hard to say no to money. And today I don't want to do this anymore. What I want to do is have like maybe 1, 2, maximum 3 companies where the deal would be like, so N8N, are you familiar with N8N? It's basically like Zapier, but on steroids.
Okay.
A bit harder to use, a bit more technical, but so powerful and so cheap. So what I'm trying to work on with them, for example, is a continued partnership where, I include them in X posts per month, and there's like a flat fee of like constant partnership. You can kind of do that through referrals and affiliation, but I feel it comes off as much more disingenuous if you're always plugging a link, you know, go and click on my link. So that's definitely where I'd like to kind of bring my brand, but also because I don't want to be selling stuff. Because if I'm not selling stuff for myself, I don't want to be selling stuff for other people.
No, but it's like if you take a book out of like fashion, right? A page out of the fashion book, like a lot of fashion influencers, and that's where influencer marketing is the biggest.
For sure.
They don't always share the link. It's just, hey, you want to see this person in that dress or whatever. I think this also like you share a lot of frameworks, you share a lot of how you do things. If you do something with a cool tool and you mention it, that's super valuable.
Yeah, you could mention do several posts about how important like webinars are, for example, for a long series of time, and that could help you out eventually at one point. Can I talk about vanity metrics for a second? Because I think it's interesting. Just then we'll get it out of the way. So what do you have about like 50K followers ish?
Yeah.
Not mistaken. Yeah. And you've been posting then for about 900 something
about 3
days.
years, yeah.
When did you really see kind of the peak? Like, have you been posting at the beginning for like 2 months, 3 months, nothing happens, and then you saw kind of things increasing? Where did you see that you really started getting this reach and, the followers coming in?
So, and this is the same for anyone who starts. At first, you get sort of the novelty effect. So your friends see you post and they're like, oh, cool, he's trying to make something, and then they're like, so
you have very supportive friends.
My mom is very supportive.
Should see what his friends say when he posts.
I get a lot of shit too. Don't worry about it.
I have a group of friends. Every time I do a podcast or a post, it goes there, and obviously they pick the things.
Will you introduce me to Zuckerberg?
That's so good.
When your friends don't work in tech.
Yeah.
They do.
Oh, it's funny because it's a quick parenthesis. I hate when people talk to me about LinkedIn in real life. I'm so comfortable with the fact that, I'm doing it and people are seeing it. I hate when people are like, oh, so, how's your LinkedIn doing? Oh, I saw this, I saw that. And it makes me so uncomfortable when I have the person opposite me. Whereas, answering comments, I'm like totally fine with it. And I've been doing it for a while, but still, I guess a podcast is okay. But when it's people that I meet, this is a topic I never talk about it. Like this is never something I talk about to people. But going back to your question. So I think at first I had this initial, bump where I was obviously doing everything wrong. I didn't do a lot of research before getting into it. I would do like 3-part posts over 3 days. Like that's like, to me now it seems ridiculous. Like who is going to look at a post on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday and be able to link them back together? It makes absolutely no sense. So I would do that. I would tell a bit of my story, and then I would go kind of well. And my first posts were okay. I get maybe like 1,000, 2,000, but this was a long time ago. So it was much, much easier to get reach on LinkedIn. Then one day I did my first post, maybe like 2 or 3 months in, about like, oh, it's been 100 days that I've posted on LinkedIn. Here's what I learned. Yeah. This posted like 120 likes, 10,000 views. I'm like, okay, I'm famous. I made it. Like that to me was, I can probably find messages on Slack where I'm like, my post is going viral. Like 10,000 views for me was amazing. And for quite a long time, actually, I was like, okay, I'll do 1 or 2 posts a week about LinkedIn, but it was much more to make myself feel good and to make the numbers go brrr, rather than it was for actually like things that I liked. 2023 was carousel year.
Carousel year.
In the LinkedIn lore, it was carousel year. I did 8.5 million views in 2023, which is like 15% more than what I'm going to do this year. Consistently 50,000 views on all of my carousels. So we're talking about vanity metrics. Like, obviously, it's not the only indicator, but it's a very easy one to be able to compare over time.
Yeah, but I think it's like one of those things because it's not paid, right? Like views and impressions is like a vanity metric when you pay for it. Yeah. But LinkedIn algorithm is this kind of, this opaque kind of tricky thing. It's constantly changing. So I do think just getting those views is a success metric in itself. It's not the same as revenue. It's not the same as, it's not necessarily the right views always, but it's already an achievement to get views just because of how the algorithm works.
It shows you're doing at least something right.
Yeah, I mean, for LinkedIn at least.
For LinkedIn at least. And there are people for whom it's like, okay, this is something that I want to spend time reading.
But carousels are so fucking time consuming.
So, yes. I don't know if you were following me back then. I used to make them all on Excalibur. Are you familiar with this tool?
No, but I do remember you posting a lot of carousels.
But with the handwritten text, you remember this or not?
Yes, I do.
That was so long to make because all of the alignments and everything, like there were no shortcuts, nothing. It would take me forever. Yeah. And I still have this Excalibur file that is overloaded, as in I can't add anything more to it without it deleting all your stuff with just like hundreds of pages of carousels.
Yeah.
And at first it's very time consuming. And then I moved everything over to Figma because I was like, okay, this is just going to save me so much time reusing stuff, organizing everything. But at some point after making 100, 200 of them, I could probably make one in the next 5 minutes. Like, give me a topic, I'll write it out, center everything, make the colors, put the images.
Yeah. Like, you've done it so many times, and now it's easier for you to go for.
I made a new one last week. It took me.
Should we take him up on that?
I mean, honestly, give me a topic.
Okay,
give me a topic, my laptop, and
let's not do it visually, but let's just go like I want like the first like a 5-page carousel about.
Sounds like a teacher. I want to find.
No. Let's say a 5-page carousel on what you would do if you were starting with LinkedIn tomorrow.
Okay, so
could be more than 5.
Yeah, let's do 10. 5 I think is not enough to justify making a carousel. There has to be at least enough to be able to put in there. So obviously, first would be cover image. Have my typical cover image with my picture, title, something like 10 lessons from 15 million views, something like that. 2 numbers, big numbers, makes everyone nice. A little bit of subtext, 1,000 plus posts. There you go. Straight away, you hook people like big numbers. Like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Second, I'd probably include a screenshot of like my shield metric, something like that. Make the numbers like real nice and up. A bit of social proof about, okay, this many posts, this many views, this many new followers. This is why you should trust me. Then I would probably I like doing sections. I think it makes it a little bit more understandable. I'd probably be like, okay, first 30 days, first 60 days, so like a cover, first 90 days. Yeah, every page would have a cover. So we're like, whatever, three in with the cover. And then some basic tips for the first 30 days. Try to keep it consistent. Focus on like structuring your content, this and that. I'd maybe post a screenshot of like a super structured post that looks nice. For 60 days, start working on visuals, start developing like a coherent brand and a coherent tone across everything you're doing. And then 90 days kind of go maybe try to then experiment around what you're doing to see, okay, is what I'm doing now just my comfort zone? Can I go a little bit further? What are people interested in else? Or should I kind of stay where I'm at? Then like specific text in there, TBD, but
yeah,
it's for me, it's always the same thing. It's like, okay, break down into manageable pieces, give people a reason to click at the beginning. So first 3 are going to be really important. It's where you want to put the numbers, where you want to put the screenshots, like getting people excited, and then break it down into like bite-sized chunks where you don't really need to rely on one slide to the next. If you can create that, I think that also makes it really nice. If each slide is kind of linked to the last and linked to the next, that also creates a really like strong, it's like reading a book.
Makes you want to scroll for the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was that 5 minutes?
Yeah, that works.
Very nice. No, I think, I mean, I also see, of course, I've now been posting every day since we first met.
Okay.
So, not because we met, but just because, just because I decided like the day before I'm going to post every day for 100 days.
Okay.
My conclusion is to not post every day for myself. I'm already there. I'm still going to do it for the 100 days because I want to see it. But I just can't, with what I do on the side, just can't keep up the quality.
Understandable.
And I find that really hard. And I notice the days where I'm just like, it's an afterthought, the posts don't go. Rarely actually work. What I'm interested in here is, what I do see though, is that the more I do it, the more certain things just come naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Like, so it's some of these principles. 2 questions. Question number 1, to what extent, because you start to have like these LinkedIn principles in your head. You need to capture people. To what extent would you say these LinkedIn principles just apply to all of marketing? Because some of these are just hook them. How much of that is LinkedIn? How much of that is marketing as a whole? How much of that is just how people consume content in today's world? How transferable do you see that?
Okay, so before answering, I think your supposition is wrong when you say that you don't have something good enough. I think you probably have something that's good enough for a lot of people. And it's not because it's not good enough for you that it's not good enough for a lot of people. And sometimes you also have to be able to sort of get past this seems super basic to me, but it's going to be helpful to like 2,000 plus people. So I think that's kind of a wrong way to think about it. You have to you have to hold yourself to a high standard on what you post, but sometimes you also have to post something simple, and it doesn't mean that it's worse. You can help someone who's at a different stage in their journey, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about that.
I do have that. Yeah, I do put quite a high bar on like who I'm trying to create that for. But yeah.
Okay, but then going back to LinkedIn, I mean, if we look at sort of maybe the big principles, there's going to be like capturing attention, keeping attention. So like hooks, dwell time, and then conversion-ish. So, you know, are you getting people to follow you or getting people to DM you?
Action. Yeah.
Yeah. Action. So I think those would be the three big principles. If you then take these three big principles, I think, yes, it definitely apply to marketing in very different ways. And then you're going to have maybe parallel principles, or you're going to have trends. So carousels were a big trend. Video is now the big trend. Like people are posting most rubbish videos ever and are getting like 100,000 views. I've seen people with like 15 million views on LinkedIn, which is crazy. And that also applies to marketing, right? So you're going to have trends on social media. You're going to have trends in like content consumption. You're going to have trends where, you know, cheat sheets were a big thing. We had a cheat sheet era like 6 months ago on LinkedIn. So I wouldn't say that LinkedIn principles apply to marketing. I would say marketing principles apply to LinkedIn rather the other way around.
Absolutely.
And fundamentally, all of that is based in like psychology, right? So we are, you know, like you see, like we feel like we see everything, but we actually see nothing. Like you only see what you're looking at, and everything else around it is like constructed from your brain. So we can only focus on one thing at a time. So as you're scrolling through, your attention goes from post to post. You have to decide, like, as you're going through and you're scrolling, you create a hierarchy of everything you see, and what is past the threshold that is going to make me stop. Yeah, that's the hook. Like that's literally what looking is. You're like, okay, I'm moving my attention from part to part. Where is the threshold high enough for me to stop? And that's exactly what a hook is. Yeah. And then dwell time. That's obviously good for algorithms because it makes, you know, it keeps people on the platform and you don't want to move people on. So that's also just a medium to get people to then take action. Education, all of that is going to be. So I think all of these are based in psychology, which creates the main principles of marketing, which then as a subgenre has like all of the LinkedIn principles. You maybe have some very unique ones, like the 3 bullet points, the 5. Yeah, you're gonna have rules, and then you're gonna have like not traditions, but like just things that are specific to your platforms. Like you're gonna have a good example is staircase lists. You know, the lists that get longer and longer and longer, or shorter. This is a very LinkedIn thing. You rarely see it on Twitter. It's just, you know, like culturally these things work, and so they get repeated and repeated and repeated, and those. But even though they don't really matter in like information flow, they do matter in this is kind of how things work. And so they
what was the bullet point one?
Yeah, like bullet points by 3 or by 5.
Okay.
Like if you see people make a list, they'll usually choose 3, 5, 7, like 11, 13, like uneven numbers usually work a bit better. If you can, you know, make them so each one is like longer than the last or shorter than the last, that's also like a lot of people are doing that. It's visually appealing. I understand.
Never thought about that ever.
Yeah, but I didn't see it in a long time. I used to see it way more. I remember like a year ago or something. Maybe, yeah.
Sorry, just my second question, very short. If 2020, so 2023 was the year of the carousel.
Yeah.
2025, will that be the year of the video?
Video, yeah.
My videos don't get shit. Like maybe they suck, but I'm not seeing I'm seeing more reach with images than videos. But
the thing is, LinkedIn's video algorithm is where its post algorithm was like 2 years ago. So I made this, it was a Friday post, made a meme about, there was this French rapper who was biking in Paris, and this super mad French guy just bikes past him and kicks him off his bike. And I was like, when the CEO asks you to, I just put like some kind of weird, whatever. It was just a marketing joke. Yeah. It did, I don't know, 15, 16,000 views in like in the day or two. And then I was looking at my metrics and they were going up up and up. I was getting 5,000-6,000 views a day, and I didn't know where. And I was scrolling back, and the post was like 2 weeks old. And I think there was some kind of like bug in the algorithm where it was showing up first for every single person, and I got 300,000 views in 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So the game is not. Depends. For most people on LinkedIn, at least for people on LinkedIn who are selling LinkedIn, the game is to get a few posts that go super viral, because that's how you get the most views and the best numbers to then sell your course or something to someone.
Yeah.
But I think even in general, the goal is like, obviously you want consistently good content, but you're always aiming for those outliers, which are going to represent a big proportion of what your engagement, like the new followers. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how many videos you've done for you to say like they've not been successful, but some people have been wildly successful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think moving on out from LinkedIn, I think there's a couple of things I would like to talk to you is contrasts and then the courses. Okay. So you're leading growth at a company called Contrast. So can you tell us a little bit about the company? Where was it when you started? How is it now? You know, what works from a growth point of view, and what are the main challenges that you guys have?
Yeah, so I was recruited as sort of the first go-to-market hire. Yeah. There had been an initial product that had already been built for virtual events. And then, you know, COVID came, it was like really complicated. So there was a pivot. Some of there were 2 people working on go-to-market before me, but on the completely different product. And there was like a real shift, kept all the products and the dev team, but shifted into a new go-to-market team, which was in essence me. From there, it was really like no man's land. There were 3 clients, maybe like 1,000 euros MR or something like that. So really nothing at all. Obviously VC backed, because you have to pay the 10 developers for building the platform. And we really went through all the phases. So all of like the initial tech and ops setup. So CRM, automation tool, making sure that, you know, everything was connected to Slack so we could see what was happening. Then we built the whole link between like the product and the CRM and Slack, so we could track everything that was happening in the product in real time. That's still something we use today. We have this admin logs channel where every time someone does anything in the product, it just sends an event. And there are hundreds of messages a day, but can just go in, take a glance, see if any of your like active deals, you know, are clicking around. And that is something we still use today, like 3 years later. So there was a big part where I spent maybe like 2 months doing all of the tech setup, making sure we had like the right CRM, that everything was connected, the right data, the right pipeline, the right properties. That then we tried, and I think this was kind of blindly, we tried to just start doing our go-to-market. So LinkedIn outbound, email outbound. But this was a huge mistake because our positioning was super unclear. We wanted to be like the all-in-one video tool. Yeah. Spoiler.
Everyone doesn't work.
That never worked. These were my first months. So it was really rough because we were getting no results. Yeah. People we were talking to were like, I don't know what you do. So I don't think I need what you do. I don't understand what your product does. Like, it was just general confusion from everyone we would talk to. So at some point we were like, this cannot work anymore. Stopped everything. And then we interviewed 200 marketers. And we did this very cool thing where a lot of people give gift cards. We did charity donations. They'd hop on a call with us for 15 or 30 minutes and we'll donate, 40 euros to a charity of your choice. And I think we did 200 calls, donated a few, like 1,000 euros to charities. So we sort of played with, instead of Amazon gift cards, Save the Amazon. And one of the charities was, Save the Amazon. And we realized that in essence, B2B is webinars. You want to do live video or like video in B2B, other than podcast recording, which is kind of its own separate thing and not that common in B2B. It had to be webinars. So then,
especially a couple of years ago.
Yeah, for sure. And from there, we then started reworking the product and making sure that we actually had something that made sense. And I think from the early days, one of the as soon as we kind of decided we wanted to do it, no one wanted to do webinars. I would say still today, most of us hate webinars. Like, we think they're super boring. And so what we're trying to do is build something that's not webinars. And that's much more like a Twitch live stream than is a Zoom webinar, where you're literally just sitting there watching someone go through slides. you have no reason to type, and we're trying to build something where, you actually can have this like bidirectional experience where you can interact with the audience, where you can do polls and games and bring things on stage
into the thing.
Through gamification and also through like a much stronger visual identity that's like super branded for the customers. So they can really create also a coherent and branded and professional experience while keeping it super simple.
Yeah.
And that was sort of our that was always going to be like our main thing. We wanted to be more like Twitch than like Zoom. Started doing our go-to-market. Our first, I think, 30 customers, 25 of them were friends of mine. Please, I need this. I'm like, I really
don't want to get fired.
This. No,
I need to hit target.
Like, I mean, we were so early. We didn't even have target. Like, how do you set a target when you have like no one? So I was like,
one person. Next target.
Just 2 people. No, I still
and
remember
then you post on LinkedIn. I doubled growth.
Carousel, 10 pages.
200% how I 2x growth in 1 month. But yeah, and I think we still have a lot of those customers today. We actually have really, really high retention rates, especially for webinars, which are quite a seasonal and also quite a sporadic activity. Some people do them and stop. And a lot of these customers are still customers today. And I have no idea where they bought the initial platform. It was terrible. Like we would go up against, we'd have these sales calls and do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? No. And we had nothing. All we had was like a cool video, a little bit of data. And I was like, okay, we need something that can make us win, at least one thing, because we're not going to be able to have feature parity with all the other tools. And one of the things that came up when we did the interviews was HubSpot. Everyone uses HubSpot. So I'm like, okay, we're going to make the best HubSpot integration you've ever seen for webinars. Today, still 3 years later, this is our main driver of growth. And what we did was instead of saying, oh, here are the developers, go build the integration, I wrote the specs. I chose which API routes we're using because I knew HubSpot. I've been doing automation in HubSpot for a while now. So I knew that to create a contact, instead of doing the create contact call, you could use a form submission API to track the original source and drill downs to create a convert. And it's like the kind of thing that no developer would ever have guessed because it makes no sense. But you had to have someone that knows the API inside out. And from there, we're like, okay, this is going to be like our main thing. So cool video, super available data in. So now we do like aggregated properties. We do like perfect UTM tracking, referral tracking. Sorry. So like that's still today is, I say, the main reason that people buy. And then we just started running with it. And we found quite early on, we that, we had one competitor that had a similar product to ours. We're also based in like same region as us, so similar clients, and we had a much better integration than theirs. So I found all their clients. I wrote a Python script that would scrape all their clients, all their events when they were, and we reached out to every single one of their clients. And from our next 50, 100-ish customers, 80% came from that company.
Nice. Good one.
I think I know which one.
I'm not naming them.
No, of course you should not.
Yeah, and that's still today works very well. A lot of our, and then from there, then things started getting a bit more complicated. We then built repurposing. So we were like, okay, now that we have approximately, feature parity, there are a lot of things we still don't have, but we want to keep things simple. We're like, okay, how can we now expand the experience instead of expanding the complexity of events? How can we sort of expand pre and post? So we built a whole slew of repurposing features. So you finish the event, you get a transcript. From the transcript, you can create clips, like select text to clip. Or from the transcript, you can ask for a summary or a blog article. And now you're starting to get way more value out of each event and extending the life. So even when people don't have an event in 1 month, they can still come in and use the repurposing features and the hosting and everything like that. So it's hard to be different, especially when people want something very specific. But currently it's working. And currently missing certain features is not enough to deter people away from all the other cool stuff that we're building.
And it's like these core principles, right? Like pick a very clear ICP. Like you guys went all in on marketers, which is not, I guess it's obvious, but it's also not obvious, right? Like a lot of webinar tools, they're trying to be webinar tools for 1,000 different use cases. So you picked a use case. So we actually went better at.
We went way more specific than that. Yeah. So our ICP, we called them small but pro. Small but pro. So 10 to 50 employees at the very beginning. We've expanded since, but at the very beginning it was 10 to 50 employees, ideally tech startups, using HubSpot.
Yeah.
And then another criteria was we want them to be cool. Yeah. Because the nature of the product means that our customers expose our product to many other people. And so we were specifically targeting the cool kids because, Linear today uses contrast. When you go to a Linear webinar, and Linear is a really cool company, right? Or Penny Lane in France is like a really big French tech. You're like, oh, Penny Lane uses this. It has to be good, right? So that was, and that's still today, it's impossible to find like a quantitative way to measure coolness. I wish there were. Number of followers has nothing to do with it. Like it's really, really hard to get there. So the best way we found was we look on the homepage of cool companies, which logos they expose. Because those are also the cool kids of the cool kids. And so if you kind of do that recursively, you get a list of all the cool kids.
Nice.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I say the one big thing that I think also set us apart is, I think this is pretty typical experience, but we were super white glove. Like every customer was our baby. Our first maybe 100 customers, we opened shared Slack channels with them. We had customers paying us like 50 euros a month that had a shared Slack channel, and that would take us hours per month of support and stuff like that. But making sure we understood exactly what their problems were, exactly what they wanted, we were able to query them. We're building, do we build A or do we build B? You're not going to get it necessarily, but if we were to build A or B, which one would you get? And spending a lot of time doing support means we have, I think, a lot of raving fans. And still today, I don't have the exact number, but somewhere around 45 to 50% of our growth is pure organic.
Yeah.
Not SEO, not social. We track those independently. Pure like organic referrals. Just people talking about us, word of mouth, or contrast is so cool, you should test it out. And that's nearly half of our growth, which definitely compounds.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Super powerful.
But it's very costly at the beginning.
Yeah. That's something more for the long term. Should we move to the next section?
Go for it.
Sorry, I'm a blabber. You have to tell me.
Oh, no, we are.
No worries
we are too. We probably the most common recurring word is, in the interest of time, just we could make these podcasts 3 hours. It's we just can't afford to.
Let's move to the fixed Q&A. So this is like 4 questions.
Okay.
It's not rapid fire yet, but it's kind of short-ish answers. So the first one is, what's a controversial opinion that you have?
Growth or LinkedIn?
Whatever you want.
Anything. Preferably business related.
Most controversial opinion.
Or a controversial opinion. Something controversial.
I would say don't always listen to your customers. And something that we hear so much of is listen to your customers, listen to your customers, listen to your customers. And I was thinking, and it's funny because I was actually thinking about this, and I was thinking about a visual that I could make for a post about this topic. So I'll kind of talk about it here first. You have your set of customers. Within those customers, you have, your ideal customers. So first of all, you're going to have customers that are not your ideal customers, that are going to ask for things that are completely irrelevant to what you're saying, to what you're building, or to what makes sense. Within those relevant customers, which is a subset of the totality of your customers, you have your smart customers, because you probably have a lot of stupid customers. And I mean this in like a very nice way. They don't know what they want. They actually don't know what's best for them. And they'll ask for things without thinking about the repercussions, or they'll ask for things without thinking about like how difficult it is to build, or if they're actually going to use it. It's literally, I have an idea. Could you make this for me? And you want to be able to filter out those people. So sometimes you're going to have your less skilled customers, and you're going to have a lot of repeated questions within those. And that's maybe a signal that there is something underlying. And then, so you're going to have your totality of your customers, your ideal customers, and then you're going to have your ideal customers that really understand what they're doing and what the point of your product is.
Yeah.
And those are the people you don't want to listen to, but want to you want them to be your gods. Yeah. Like these are the people that if they tell us
Champions.
we need this, we will move. What is it? Hell and earth, mountain and earth. What's the expression? We'll
Heaven
move
and earth.
Heaven and earth. Thank you. To build it, because we know that that if they're asking, they've thought about it first of all, and that is towards where we want to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very important to filter out.
Really good
some
with
of your
that.
person.
Okay, the next one is, what's your biggest fuck up?
I mean, I think I talked about it a little bit earlier, and I've actually done it twice. So in French, we say never two without three, hopefully not a third time. I think the biggest fuck up, and this is like a really big one. It's not like an individual like action or small failure. It's starting to like trying to do go to market. So I use the term kind of go to market as early stage growth. You know, some people don't like that. Without having like a very clear idea of value proposition, target, messaging.
Without the foundations.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I've seen it literally kill a company where positioning was so vague and we wanted to sell it to absolutely everyone. And the reason we weren't selling it is not that we weren't selling enough, was not that we didn't have a clear positioning, but we didn't have enough salespeople. So we overhired, and then the company just kind of ran out of money.
Yeah.
And we had every week it was, we need to add this new industry page to the website. This is what's going to make us rich.
Yeah.
And now I look back at the young Maxim, I'm like, you're such an idiot. If the first 10 didn't work.
I think we've all been there at one point, right?
Through that, and we still go through it even when we know it.
Yeah.
When it's your own company, it's also hard.
And I think at least, at Contrast, we were able to realize it as a team much earlier. But
it paid off.
Yeah. Yeah. And we took the time where we stopped anything related to selling to really make sure we understood this. And we spent hours just drawing on whiteboards. Who do we want to be? What are we going to do towards where we're going? This doesn't mean a 5-year roadmap. It means, I don't want to get into like the whole brand thing, but I think there is like a fundamental set of values that you have as a company and like what you believe in and what makes you different. And like from there, you build out all your brand, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to go too much into that, but I do think it is a very important thing to understand before doing any kind of go to market.
Yeah.
Because if you sell to everyone, but you're really selling to no one.
100%. So who do you learn from the most?
A single person.
A single person. I would say, I think I would have to say like Elena Verna. A big fan of her content. I think a lot of the content she does, a lot of my content is, I wouldn't say based on hers, but was part of my research. Yeah. And I've actually spoken to her a few times. I mean, I would never go as far as saying that we're friends, but I've spoken to her a few times because what she would do is she would make like these posts and I would rewrite them kind of LinkedIn fashion. I'd make a carousel out of them. And obviously I'd say that it's hers. I wouldn't say, oh, that's mine. And a few times, I didn't know if I was overstepping or if she was, and she was like, no, I thought you rewrote them really well. I like the way you presented it. It's much clearer. So I think it didn't bother her. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for all the work she's doing. I mean, obviously she's worked at amazing companies and I think she's also really funny, which I think is cool.
Nice. And the last one is, what is your favorite tool in 2024?
I have to say Anyden. Like it's just, I look for excuses to use it. Like sometimes I just wish that my workflows would break so that I would have a reason to like go in and fiddle around with them, but they never break. For me, I mean, obviously I think it's a very niche tool. I think for a lot of people, like
for those who aren't familiar with it, what does it do?
It's like Zapier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, it's like Zapier, but it's like, but you need the technical knowledge.
It's like if you look in terms of level of difficulty, you're gonna have Zapier or Zapier, Make, and then above that, like Anyden.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. Now they're also starting to integrate like not just use like ChatGPT in your workflows, but actually build language models within the tool. They just have. Like it can be a very complex tool to learn, but once you do, you can take a 70 module make automation and make it in 3 in Anyden. It's ridiculously powerful. That's for me. And I think it's very niche. Wider audience, I'd have to say clay. I started using clay recently.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're doing really well, huh?
They are.
Yeah.
they're doing great.
Impressive.
They are.
We have a segment where we usually talk about kind of the kudos and the facepalm of the week, but when we have back-to-back episodes, it's always a little bit hard. But I think we can do kind of like a truncated short version here, because I only have one kudos.
I don't have, so you can use
So my kudos is just our client, Cradle Bio, has raised 73 million in Series B for a European company. That is astronomical.
That's great.
And it's well worth it because they're literally one of the very few companies that can claim they're changing the world. And
What do they do?
they use machine learning to help you to help engineer proteins. So accelerate everything from medical trials to vaccine development to, I'm bastardizing and oversimplifying it. So hard to say, but it's really game changing what they're doing.
Cool.
Yeah. Do you have one to share?
A kudos or a fail?
One or either or one or the
both
other?
if you want.
Either or both. That was what I was trying to say.
Not a kudos. If you had asked me a bit before, I would have a bit more time to think about it. But maybe a fail. I do think the Jaguar rebranding is a huge fail.
We discussed it last week, yeah.
It'll be interesting. I don't like it, but I don't know what the strategy is underlying it.
But did you just see the logo change?
Yeah, I saw the logo change.
Did you see the ad?
I saw the ad.
Okay.
Oh yeah. We've had very long discussions about this.
Yeah.
Logo change, I don't think it's enough to like elicit that strong of a reaction. I think the ad is
Weird. Yeah.
It's not even about it being weird. I think it's incoherent. If you think about who drives a Jaguar,
But I think they're trying to change that.
That's my point. It's like the people buy Jaguar today is not the people who's going to buy Jaguar in 10, 15 years.
That's true.
When actually it makes sense. So that's my full point. I also not a big fan on how it looks like, but we're not going to have the full discussion again. I just feel like I don't think we can really judge because we don't have also the research that is behind. And I think they try to pivot. So the new audience, they're going to care about this type of
that's a
visual messaging.
crazy pivot.
Yeah, it's a crazy pivot. I think that's one of the...
Only time will tell if it works or not, right?
true.
My only point so far has been like, I don't know the data. I don't know the research. I don't know if it's going to work.
And it's that or that.
Yeah.
Because
Probably,
they're slowly...
Yeah.
I do believe that companies have a certain DNA, and I think I agree with you there that even if you change, like, can a company completely change everything about itself except for the name?
I don't think so.
That's an open question. I'm skeptical more about that than the rebrand itself.
But for the next at least 20 to 30 years, Jaguar is going to be the James Bond car. I don't think you'll be able to, and even if the James Bond movies,
No, but this is a long-term play. It's not something. This is next level plays. It's not like our tech startups type of plays. This is next level plays. Huh?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll
Takes
see.
time
will
to
tell.
change how people think about your brands.
That's for
Always.
sure.
Yeah,
Cool. Should we move to rapid fire questions?
let us do it.
All right. Because of the time, let's do it this way. So.
We have an event to get to, so
You have an event.
we'll do a part
Both of
two
you
if
guys
we
are
need to.
talking. So rapid fire, one word, an answer with one word, or you have to choose between two options.
Okay.
All right.
I love that you just explained what rapid fire means.
Yeah, well, I never know, right? Content creator or growth manager?
Growth manager.
Memes or in-depth carousels?
Memes.
Okay, this is a question from Georgie. Lifting weights versus or cardio?
Lifting weights.
Of course, Georgie put that in there.
One thing that makes a content piece remarkable?
Information flow.
One skill each person needs to develop in 2025?
Discipline.
Making courses versus making dedicated content pieces?
Dedicated content pieces.
Nice. Perfect.
Maxime, thank you so much for joining us.
you very much.
Pleasure.
It's been an
Thanks for
absolute
having me.
pleasure. We can definitely have you on again. We'll swing by Paris or something.
Find an excuse to go to Paris.
Yeah, no, it's been an awesome discussion. I can't wait to see you at the event in a second. Do you have anything you want to share? Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to put out there?
I have nothing to sell. Follow me on LinkedIn. If you like what I post, drop a like, drop a comment. Tell me you heard about it from the podcast. If you're an early stage company and you are looking, to improve your growth, happy to chat about it. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, and that's it.
Nice. Thank you very much, Maxim.
Appreciate it.